Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to episode 19 of Gestating Narratives for our Synthesize Being collection. And so first we're going to start here by acknowledging the land that we're standing on, acknowledging the indigenous land that we're standing on. Not only to raise awareness about the land that I'm occupying, that you may be occupying, but also to acknowledge that that is what supports me. If I'm standing here, calling that awareness into a ritual space, and also acknowledging the sky that surrounds us, calling in that dimension, that realm, and the sea that surrounds us, and calling in that realm as well. We call on our healed ancestors and our elements here represented in the flag, and also contained in the flag, the element of air, fire, water, earth, and akasha. And as I had created this imagination flag, I had each element present with me. I had a candle, I had a container of water, I had stones, and then I had my breath in the air, I had a feather, and the akasha, the ethers, the etheric realm, being present with that as well as our dreams that carry us through as we birth new worlds with every breath. Let us raise the imagination flag and enter into this realm together, into this space of imagination together. And we welcome you to join in whatever craft that you're doing, to come stitch along, hum along, paint, anything really that you feel like doing, anything that constitutes your craft, any something you might be wanting to, something new you might be wanting to, a new medium you might be wanting to explore. And yeah, so being here is also just being in this space of wonder, being in this space of connecting through and beyond time and space. And what we have here is our bindings. We're going to continue with some of our bindings that we were working on the past couple episodes. And someone recently brought up to me the word nexus, and when I googled the etymology of nexus, it was talking about binding, and it made me think about this. It made me think about the act of binding. reflecting is on the sewing as an analogy. Here we're binding the edges from unraveling. They were actually bound before with the overlock stitch, and then they started coming apart, and this material is still around. This polyester fibers are still around, and so in a sense, rebinding them could be like re-honoring their existence. We can think of microplastic and polyester materials clogging up the oceans, and we can also think of it as this metaphysical presence. Like, how are these how are these materials still around? How did they almost like who authorized this? What were they thinking? Like, and then also thinking about like the great like the God of all gods. Lately I've been reading about Krishna and learning the Krishna chant, and one thing I've always loved about Krishna, even before I really knew anything about Krishna, and I still, there's just infinity to learn about. But first thing that I noticed that I loved was the blue color. Thinking of that as the ocean and the sky. And here we have this blue material that throughout our narrations has represented the sky and the ocean and the dream with my grandmother. And so that's where we're at, and thinking about presence of God, of spirit. And then thinking about the archetypes of different gods, like thinking about the planets and their cosmic intelligence orbiting around us. What's happening right now in the cosmos? Let's check it out. Okay, so right now the moon is at 23 degrees of Pisces, conjunct Neptune at 22 degrees. And as a part of this like macro and micro interrelationship of where we are, thinking about Pisces being this spirit, being this etheric spirit, spiritual archetype or element, and having the moon, our waters are something that we're present with when the sun sets. Folding all these little layers is like in, folding it in, and then folding it around. Oh, my blue heart, my blue heart, how I feel, all the sensitivities I feel. Oh, my blue heart, oh, my blue heart. Oh, my blue heart. Oh, my blue heart. But is it really a heart? Something that is a binding? It just looked like that symbol. But perhaps not the organ, but how did the organ and the symbol relate? I remember it making sense one day, although I can't remember right now. Something to do with like the actual shape of the organ, I think. Maybe something to do with the flower. I'm not sure. The organ of a flower. I don't know. Okay. So now So now we're back out here. Hi. And yeah, we also have our astrology pulled up. So I wanted to think a little bit about the macro interrelationship with the planets. Thinking about this weaving, the weaves of these fibers, thinking about the stitches, feels like a Virgo energy. There's no planets in Virgo right now, but the sun is in Taurus, and the bull, the stubbornness. I definitely am feeling stubborn in a lot of ways around my practice and what I'm doing, like stitching here with you. Are you feeling stubborn in some way? And I mean, yeah, sometimes it's really important to be stubborn because it could it's like this consistent, solid energy. And I mean, this garment is sitting on my desk or my sewing machine, sitting in my studio until it's reached a stage of completion. So part of my stubbornness is in doing this, and another part is in streaming it and recording it. I keep thinking, like, what's the point of doing this, and questioning why I'm doing it, which I think is important to do, because each time I ask, perhaps I might, or each time I'm asked, perhaps I'm confronting something else, or perhaps it's an acceptance of where I'm at in this season. And do we have anybody in the chat? Okay, so what else is going on in the cosmos? Well, the sun passed Uranus, both in Taurus. Uranus is slowly moving through Taurus. And Chiron is still transiting through Aries, the identity crisis that we all might be going through. Yeah, so thinking about our stitches in a larger context, perhaps thinking about them as I might relate to them, as you might relate to them, as it might relate to our home, where we're living. How do we even see home? Do we have a home? What is a home to you? What is a space of nurturance and revitalization to you? What does that feel like? By by recalling what that feels like. Is there a memory? Is there a way for you to recall that feeling? Is there a way for you to recollect a feeling like that when you need to? And speaking of home, when I look over, there's Mars and Cancer. Mars coming through Cancer, the mission. Mars on the mission. Mars the warrior. The warrior of home, for home. To fight for our spaces to be nurtured. To advocate for them. To recognize when we need help being nurtured, or when we need when we find that within some kind of intimate environment, whether it's at home or in a space of intimacy and nourishment. Does that feel... I'm thinking of the archetype of the crab that's like on the ocean, and so to a certain extent I'm thinking of the ocean as this really like rejuvenating space, but it's also very consistent, the way that the tides come in and out and the way that it pulsates. It keeps pulsating, and that's, to me, that feels like this reservoir of nourishment. But then there's a mission, and now I'm thinking about like plastics in this well of this reservoir, and thinking of like that could be like Mars. That could be what Mars is fighting for. Maybe it's to have a better environment in some capacity. However great or small, we can fight for that. And tend to that. And okay, so it looks like we have all of those bits. Now I'm wondering, okay, so now we have like here, 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 here. We have all of, okay, so that's like 4 places of needing to enclose in this stitch line, and I'm thinking of doing that by hand just because the corners are giving me a headache. I don't really know how I'm gonna do that with the machine, because on the outside, like, this is what's happening on the outside, and it feels just like I don't really know a mitering trick for all these different layers, and so I feel like just one stitch at a time, figuring out how to enclose these. because this collar extends beyond the seam. This collar extends beyond the seam, okay? Oh, here. And so, like, do I try to, like, pleat the collar so that it can fit into that corner, or this corner, or do I just hand stitch it on there? I feel like just hand stitching it on there will be easier, because sometimes that's just doing it right. I don't know, sometimes just doing things delicately with care and with patience, we can have more precision than if I would try to go at it with a machine and then what's the back gonna look like, what's the front gonna look like. So, and on the other side, I did manage to do that. Here, we did manage to, like, have this part open, or like finish, like, see, it's all tucked inside of there, and this side it's not. But I don't really know what to do. How do I get everything to just lay flat? Because there's this pleat, but then here there's not even a back tack. This is just coming undone, and then if I try to lay it flat, there's just like this jumble. Is that because it's like being pulled? Like, do I need to readjust something? Do I need to pleat something? What happens when I just unpick this a little bit? Will I be able to So I'm thinking, how do I really sit with this? I think I need to undo some of this binding as well, because maybe that will help us to be able to fold in the part of the white at this conjunction, at this junction, undejunct. Okay, so there we have undone some of this. And okay. I'm thinking that it would be really nice if I had some bias to like bind this whole seam, because then I wouldn't have to do like a flat fell seam. But we only have straight grain right now. We don't have any more bias of the blue, at least. I don't think. No, we don't. But, you know, something that I haven't really tapped into that I'm remembering is that we do have more of this white material on another piece of this collection. And I'm thinking, like, is there any way that there's some bias we can cut from that? Or ooh, What's the other option is that there's just gonna be a big old tuck right here. But how did the other side do it? I think it's like just go straight and then maybe this binding that I undid, maybe this binding like tapers off to where it's the binding tapers, and then we can also like hand stitch, turning this under, and then where the white part joins. Okay, so should I just stitch this, re-stitch this binding closed while just making sure to taper off? Taper off, ocean, taper off, ocean, taper off, ocean, na 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 na. Taper off, ocean, na 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 na, na na na. Huh. we're at the sewing machine now, and our binding kind of came undone. As we're tapering, it's like, oh, do you really want to taper? All right, we're done with that part. Let's just move on to our hand sewing, and yeah, we'll do it that way. Because things were just kind of falling apart, and I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with it. Just doing it and having it look terrible, having it be like undone and not lined up, and that's just how I saw that going. And perhaps I could see it another way, but right now the other way presented is through my hand stitches, through my hand stitches. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Through my hand stitches on. Okay, so let's just do this first. How does this whole situation want to lay flat? How does it land when I lay it flat without any tucks? This one actually might need to be stitched a little closer before they're enclosed. This one we can trim. We're just gonna hand stitch this closed. Yeah, this part of coming in and trying to bind seams that were already enclosed felt like a lot, but I just had to get into the right mindset base of doing it, because it's something that I think requires kind of like nimbleness, like flexibility, And to see things coming together. Sometimes when sewing or creating, it can feel kind of exhausting if we don't really have the energy to like look at everything, see everything. Because like if you're just cutting a garment and sewing it, if you're cutting it from a pattern and sewing it, a lot of times that requires energy too, obviously, but a lot of times it's like pretty straightforward, and there's an order in which you sew things and in which you finish them in the most efficient way. And so when it comes to remaking, reglowing, it's like I can take the opportunities presented where I'm hitting walls creatively as moving through my own creative blocks, and how the process is just completely different because I'm personally engaged in it, and not just through like an object, like control, like me controlling the object. It's like, well, some of these things I don't necessarily have control over because they're all moving parts. And so yeah. Sometimes if there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different seams going together, it's like we all seem to be something, but like how do we really come together requires like getting in there, sometimes taking a lot of things apart that we already put together or somebody else already put together, and like just getting into it, really getting into it. And then once I'm holding everything kind of in a way that feels right, feels like things are comfortable, I start with the first place that needs to be held together in order to build from there. And so here in this moment, I've got these pins at this corner where things are flat, there's no tucking, and I'm gonna start in the corner here, and then I'm gonna start going all the way around, just tucking in and whip stitching this, because I know that once I do that, then I could fold this over, and then I can come around here, and then I can finish off this side as well with these two different components. But so now I'm going to be focused on pulling this blue seam allowance under and like whip stitching it, but starting at the corner is gonna be a little tricky because it's delicate. Corners, this is because this is like a miter, and I should probably get a new thread and do like a double thread because we want this to be secure since it is kind of like a foundation. And not trying to fold. Yeah, that's the blender. We're blending it up again. Remember how we like to blend things? That was from another episode. When we were talking about the ethers, blending through the ethers. And here we are. Knotting off at our corner and then tucking in. Can you see? Can you see me? Can you see me? Can you see me? Our seam is kind of like tapering down to meet all these careful thoughts, one at a time, each stitch holding something so vital yet possibly trivial. But when is, I only say trivial because, well, because our expressions can be fluid. And so embodying an expression or a garment just makes me think of like how, maybe trivial is not the right word, but how is it trivial? I actually don't think that it's trivial. I think it is what it is, and I think that even that existence is not necessarily definable. So if trivial is something that feels like trivial, is there like an axis of truth somewhere in there, or multiple, or infinite? Is trivial a bad thing? Because I kind of have like a resistance towards that word because of like trivia, like are these things really, are these like random facts important? Are they even facts? What consensus is making that a fact? And what consensus is resistant to that, and how are each of those positions valid and given the space that they need? So this is how far we've come. I love it. I love where we're at. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay. Coming around. Coming around. Oh, wow. It's great because look on the other side, there's this like slight invisible stitch line down here, but then the collar is gonna, well, first of all, that I love that. I love that it's just like a faint. Just like that. And then down. Okay, that's what's happening. Seeing. Sing, oh 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 sing. Hey, 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 hey. Come into the back. Come into the back here so that I can. Any comments? Anybody want to speak to me? Alright. I'm nodding off behind this label so that we can begin again. We'll begin again. We'll begin again. Begin again. I was thinking, how do I hide my tails now? And I just gotta go between the label and the ocean. The air, the ocean. I am just really happy to see how all of these, when things become finished and bound, there's a feeling. There's so many feelings that have gone into where we're at. So taking moments along the way to really appreciate how things come together, while also knowing that they've all been taken apart in many ways too along the way, and recirculated until something has come through. Until something has come through. So then, what is it that we hold in our heart, or do we hold nothing in our heart because our heart is open, a space of openness? Is it, if we hold something in our heart, does it mean that we are holding it captive? But an embrace is not necessarily a captive. So how do we hold then? With our breath, almost like, it feels like maybe it's a moment, kind of like when we inhale, and there's a moment where we might be holding our breath, but we're not really holding it because we're inhaling it, and it exhales, and with each inhale and exhale, there is space to grow, space to develop, space to move, to adjust, to see new perspectives, to experience our existence. And then exhaling, releasing what was, allowing what is. What else is happening in the stars? Oh, Venus. Venus will soon be entering Gemini, but for now, they're in Taurus. This love, pleasure, vibration in Taurus reaching the most. Exalted expression of Taurus, perhaps, and of the bull. Trine with Pluto. Whoa. Trine with Pluto and Capricorn. So we have like trine with the other earth, another earth element. So what does that feel like? That feels like just thinking about the archetypes, thinking about their energy, their vibration, their presence, and how they might interact with each other. It's like Pluto in Capricorn feels like total transformation of our systems, of our collective systems. And this like magnetic transformation. Like you don't really have a choice because it's like magnetizing these big changes in our systems, which are definitely needed. So what does that look like? How do the systems then, how do new systems reemerge or emerge? How do new systems emerge as we exhale the old system and inhale clarity, and so this is trine to Venus in Taurus. This loving, pleasurable, like spring flowers, like a juicy kiss, or like some dark chocolate. In Taurus. Ooh. We got, is that okay? I think that's okay. This binding here, intersecting the binding or the flat fell seam we're making now, is kind of it's kind of not entirely stitched down to the seam, so How might we tuck it in place and then stitch it in place when we get to it? But yeah, talking about these earth energies of transformation, and also pleasure, like how can transformation also be pleasurable? Because there's a trine with these two, so they're like, that means that the energy is flowing really easily between them. So yeah, perhaps it's a time to feel good about what we're transforming in our systems and in our physical realities as well. Right, and I think what I'm doing right now feels like that because the process of production is being recontextualized, almost as like therapy, sovereign therapy. Cultivate your identity, embrace your experience. Hold it, release it. Hold it, release it. Oh, and then Pluto is sextile the moon and Neptune, so that's also a current of energy that's easily flowing. Only it's a sextile, so perhaps it's more actively interacting in our dreams, Neptune, and our psychic etheric fields tonight. As this video enters into the evening, I think that for me, I'm seeing that seeds can be planted and harvested, and our existence remains. In the ocean. How do we come to terms with, I guess, releasing like painful thoughts and cultivating thoughts, but also not ignoring, acknowledge them, and cultivate. And I feel like that's a way for me to explain where I'm at. I'm sure there are many different ways to explain that process, and how it might unfold for each person, what it might look like in their own being, in their own minds is going to be different. So also just acknowledging that. Ooh, we got our stitches, we got our little stitches. Okay, now comes a point of needing to knot off and needing to we cut it really close here, everybody, and we need to come back and knot with our fingers because the thread was too stuck. And I want to loop through it twice. So how can I do it? And I also want to tuck these tails. So what I'm going to do, I want to tuck the tails off these threads here. I'm going to, and they're too short for my needle. I'm going to put the needle in first and then thread them through. And then pull. And there we go. And now we can clip it, and then we don't have to, our tails have some space to breathe and they're knotting. But I actually want to come back to this seam because I was kind of in the middle of like joining these two parts, which is there was this binding here on this seam and it was kind of like flopping, so I wanted to just stitch the end of it here to the seam here. so that it will be held in that place. And then also, once this seam is secure pointing this direction, the petals will be secure and going outward. And so this will help those lay in that direction. It's like the seam going this way pushes the flowers this way, because if the flowers are in the seam, they might have a hard time like bending. So if the seam is going this way, they might bend this way, but the seam is going this way, so they're going to be like this. Just like that. Kind of. Tacking, okay. Now we have a knot to make, a knot to make, a knot to make here. Now, should we come back for this? Oh, did you hear that? That was my needle dropping. Oh, right, we need to, just while I'm here, I might as well do the French seam here that we're talking about, or at least one direction of it. French dart. So we stitched it and then we clipped it, and now we're going to press it open and then stitch on the other side like our French seams do that. Closing that little like a vent. What was the vent before? Closing the vent. It's getting hot in here. Pressing it open. Now pressing it down, or pressing it the other direction. And then I'm going to press that flat now to one side. Moving in one direction. There we have our French dart. Oh yes, very enclosed. Very enclosed seam. Okay, we might go back to our hand sewing now. That was a little machina excitement. This material, this white material, is so spongy. It's like, how can we really fully see this sponginess for what it is? How do we fully bring out, how do we enhance the qualities of this spongy polyester draped across the chest? That's the question. And the next question is, how do we want to finish the front of this collar? Oh, like this. To come around. And then like tuck this inside here or something. And then what about this side? I don't know. I think that this piece would need to extend further. Now I'm like, okay, well, should we just take the whole collar off? No. Okay. We can like add a piece onto here so that onto this strip so that we can like fully wrap around. Maybe that's what we'll do. So first let's see how wide is this bit here. About 1, 2, 3, it's almost an inch. Okay. Well, let's cut. Let's see what we're working with. If we cut a straight line from the close to the bottom, a line that can go all the way across. We followed the stripe already in the material, and then where is it as wide as 1 inch this direction, and then following this line and then following this line, following the line on here, can stitch to this. Right sides together, or face sides together. Oh, it looks like it's not quite 1 inch. It's like a little bit shorter, but that's okay. We can always trim it down. And then go from here. We're going from here. Okay, and now the next side. Okay, so now that we have that, we see how it's like wider. I'm going to trim the extra width here. All right, now that we've done that, we can see stitching this together and then bringing this around. Oh, okay. We can do this. We can fold the part back on itself, wrapping around the collar, and then we can machine stitch that. And then as well on the other side. And then we can hand sew them. After that. Being careful to not stitch over any pins. I just removed my pins before. Taking out, taking off. Okay. Oh. Well, that was, we got caught. We got caught. Got caught in here. All right, this time I'm gonna sew on this other side and yeah. I think that's probably a better idea because when I sew with the side up that I can see, the one that has a twisted material, like here, I'm trying to get in here and like sew this part, but it's flipped up, and like now I'm gonna flip it down here like this. And it's better to see that side while sewing. And yeah, I mean, we've done that, and now Now we have this floppy thing. To tuck inside or something. Okay, that's what we have. And now in sewing the other side. What's on the other side of this? On the other side of this. Ooh, 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 ooh. Forward, flip, forward, backward, forward, backward, flip. Nah, not the last flip. Okay. Getting a drink of my tea water. flower here. Can this even tuck inside with where we're at? Okay. I think that we're getting very close. Also, I'm feeling the need to wrap this video up for today. And so let us thank this realm. Let us give thanks and gratitude to all of the elements and ancestors present in guiding us through this space and being present with wherever we're at. And so let us lower the flag of imagination, release this space, and we will see you next time. Thank you.